I took off my raincoat and the audience went, "Oh!" And I realised they were more afraid of my body than I was of my own. I grew up very shy, actually, and very aware of being a fat child. And I was very lucky to have a mother who always pushed me and encouraged me. And I was expelled from school at the age of 14 and was never placed back into education. And I think that did something to me that made me realise I have to kind of come out of my shell and find some form of confidence, which was backed up by my mother. And so from that moment onwards, you know, when the world is against you, you just find a way of trying to become a sort of more confident, visible person. Fat Blokes is born out of the fact that on a day-to-day basis I live with the aggressions of other people. So people will often leave the seat next to me on the train or the bus free. People take photographs of me in public space. They laugh at me. I've been mocked, laughed at, violently abused and verbally abused in public space quite a lot because of my fatness, my queerness, and I guess the combination of being fat, faggy and common as well, that people feel the need to tell me that I'm failing. And I realised that all of these things were taking place when I was on my own, and I wondered what would happen if I came together as a gang. What happens if I built this like fat queer gang and we came together and we were like Fat Spice Girls? What would happen? I guess I want people to come to Fat Blokes and to sort of acknowledge a fat experience, and one that's often like made to be funny or downplayed, or that the fat person never has any sexual capital, or that they need to be fixed. I want to disrupt that myth, because actually I'm really fucking sexy and I don't need to be fixed. So there's a part of me. So when I'm thinking about Brexit and what that might mean for Ireland and or the UK, there's a part of me that on this side of the water wants me to sit back, watch and laugh. And that's horrible, but that's the truth. There's a part of me that goes, you fucked it, now let's see what happened. And I think there needs to be an acknowledgement that there is that sentiment and that feeling. But then I think with the working class part of my head on, who's going to be mostly affected by those choices that were made by the upper right-wing class of UK society? And I think it's very much so the working classes on both sides of the water that will be disproportionately affected by this decision of British colonial protectionism, because that's what's going on here. That's the unearthed conversation that people are not having in the UK, that this is pure British colonial thought, that we'll leave without a plan because we'll be fine, because we're Great Britain. Now, I don't have the answers of what that means for the queer community. I can tell you what I'm trying to do in response to it as an artist, which is next month I will be gathering artists who live in the spaces of Ireland, Northern Ireland, the island of Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England to come together in Liverpool, so an area with a high amount of the Irish diaspora, sort of easily accessible for all of those people to come together and to talk and to think about how we might undermine the bureaucracy that's going to be enforced on us. That is all I have, because I've been made powerless within this system. Something so attractive about the Irish referendum has been the tangible change, and how the change can be felt and actioned by the people, and that just doesn't happen in the UK. Where queer identity in Ireland is about being a part of a space, being part of a community, and acknowledging the politic that goes with that community and the intersections of that community, and being mindful and making sure and trying to ensure that there are people at that table. Queerness in the UK is an aesthetic. It's a thing you call yourself. It's an identity. And so how is there learning to be had there? One of the most burning issues of the queer global community actually is how our trans brothers, sisters, siblings, gender non-conforming siblings and non-binary siblings are under attack. and I use that word not lightly. They are under attack from mainstream press and media and the political systems that are at play. And as a result, we are seeing trans-exclusionary feminism come to the forefront, right? And we're seeing this debate about where people piss. That is what this debate is about, right? But it's like covered in the violent transphobia. And what I'm sort of disgusted by is that the other letters of our acronymed community, particularly the G, are very bad in stepping forward in solidarity when in previous years our trans siblings have been the ones who have been in arms with us. There's something about Pride London which happened last year where a group of trans-exclusionary radical feminist lesbians, as they call themselves, lay down in front of the parade and were able to march in front of the parade and talk about their version of utopia and about very violent language towards trans people. And I tell you what, something, of course, it makes me very angry that happened. But what makes me more angry is that as a response, the community thought the right thing to do was to throw rocks at them. So it thought violence towards women was acceptable if they were being transphobic. And this is why I think intersectional identity really has to be investigated and a conversation at the forefront of the communities, because an eye for an eye will make us both blind, right? And I just feel like a real burning issue of the community is the attack that is happening towards gender non-conforming and non-binary people in the community. And like if we want to think about who the enemy is, right? If so-called if trans-exclusionary feminists, so-called feminists in my eyes, think that trans people are the enemy, I want to say, wake up, right? There is a way more dominant enemy to be putting that energy against.